So I'm standing in the cafetorium. If you're a teacher, you know what a cafetorium is. It's an auditorium where there's food involved. Or it's a cafeteria where there's performance involved. And there's 600 kids sitting on the floor, cross-legged, K through 6. And I'm here to sing a few songs about kindness, but to do a sort of TED Talk with kids about kindness. So what do I start with? I ask a question that you might ask too. What is kindness? And I always go to the kindergartners. Any kindergartners here today? Are you a kindergartner? No, probably a little older. And I go to the kindergartners, and they're the unqualified experts on kindness. They'll say things like, it's when you're nice to people. It's when you share. My favorite one is this little boy goes, it's when you're kind. I go, precisely. And what I love about kindergartners is not that you have these answers, but that they have such certitude about what kindness is. As you go up the grades, there's less certitude. The kids may say the exact same things, like it's sharing, it's kind, but it's like they're channeling some handbook, some civilization handbook from the sky, and these people told me to say this. Because the older you get, the more apt you are to think about being cool. and there's a difference between being cool. Everyone just do this for a second. I mean, cool sometimes, it doesn't have to be, but sometimes cool means other people aren't cool. So you're cool and they're not. And so when I go up the grades, I try to teach kids that you can be kind and cool at the same time. The other thing I noticed in schools is that kids will define kindness in the negative. They'll say, not hitting, not yelling, not calling names, not bullying. That's one of my favorite ones, not bullying. And when you go around the country, of course, there's anti-bullying programs everywhere, and there's a problem with that. It's because we've defined kindness in the negative. There's this idea that anti-bullying is this thing that exists, when in reality, it would be as absurd as having a Department of War and Defense and not having a Department of Peace. Can you imagine a country that didn't have a Department of Peace? Oh yeah, that's a joke. Yeah, that's our country. That's where that comes from. And I was actually at a school. This is a true story. I go to schools all the time. I have some slides here. There's the kids. There they are. And I go to schools, and that's a school in North Carolina. But I went to a school, and they had a sign that said, this is a bully-free zone. And right next to it, it says, learning is our #1 priority. What's wrong with that picture? If you have a bully-free zone, what should be your #1 priority? Love, kindness, maybe loving or something, or children. And so the other thing that happens in bully-free zones is kids start pointing fingers at each other. Like, you're being a bully. No, you're being a bully. No, you're being a bully. And the whole time is spent trying to define what bullying is and not what kindness is. So I'm going to talk about replacing the bully-free zone with something I call the force field for good. This is a painting my daughter Gracie drew of this, the force field for good, which is the earth surrounded by children holding hands, and what a force field for good is. And I want to teach you about that today and how to do that. How do we replace a culture where kids are simply obeying or breaking rules or not breaking rules with a culture where kids are deciding on their own to be their higher self, be their best self, find their intrinsic nobility? How do you teach that? Well, I can just say, everyone be nice all the time, but that doesn't work that well, because how many people here have ever had a bad day? Yeah. Anyone have a bad day? Yeah, Tricia, come on up here for a second. This is a friend of mine, Tricia. She's in 5th grade, right? Are you a 5th grade teacher? Yeah. She's a 5th grade teacher, but she's in 5th grade all the time. And Tricia, I'd like you to just pretend you're having a bad day. Just cross your arms, like this. Yeah, everyone do this. Everyone do what she's doing. Scrunch up your face. It takes 43 muscles in your face to frown, but it takes only 16 to do what the people in the picture behind me are doing. Everyone go like this. Ah. Tricia, you do it too. Ah. Now do this. 43 muscles. Now, ah. You see the difference there? So Tricia's having a bad day, and because she's having a bad day, not because she's a bully or a bad person or anything else, just because she's having a bad day, she does, Brené Brown says something that I like to repeat, which is, it's much easier to be mean to people than it is to be vulnerable. So what she says to me, she's having a bad day, and this is what she says to me. She says, I don't like your shoes.
You're wearing those again? You look so stupid.
What can I say to Trisha to create a force field for good? Everyone go like this and make a force field sound. Go, I'm going to actually, I have these speakers that my friend Mike Jolly made to do the force field. Let's do it right now. Just do it. Now pretend you're walking above the school. You're a giant. Do it around the whole school. Do it. Central Connecticut State University. Paul Manafort Drive. Here I am. Now pretend you're an alien in outer space. Do it around the whole planet. Create a global insurance policy for the Earth. Here we do it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So now, what can we say to Trisha when she says, what can I say to her when she says something like that to me? What could I say back to her? Your shoes are beautiful. And sometimes the kids will say things like, that was mean. And sometimes they'll say things like, I like your shoes, but you don't like mine. Or sometimes we'll say things like, that hurt my feelings. But everyone just take a deep breath. Listen to the force field inside yourself. And then what's one thing I could ask her a question? What could I ask her? This is what kids will say. One hand will go up and it'll say, are you okay? Are you okay, Trisha? No, I'm having a bad day.
Today actually was really bad. I flunked an test.
Oh, everyone say, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, Trisha. Now hold this.
Oh.
She's connected to the force field again. Let's have a hand. You can have a seat. So here's a song I wrote. It's called Force Field for Good. I'm going to sing you just a little bit of it. You don't know why she said it. It almost made you cry. But then you didn't let it. Instead, you asked her. She told you she was so sad about something at home. It made you feel just so bad that she was all alone. Come help weave a force field for good. Pack up all of your fears. We'll thread the warp with kindness. The weft makes hate disappear. Over and under and over. Love stories we weave from our past. The force field melts all the meanness. Justice and goodness will last. When I do that song with kids, we talk about the warp and the weft. In weaving, the warp is the string that runs that way. Everyone put your right hand out like that. And it's that's like Trisha alone having a bad day and not telling anybody. It's not very strong. But if I take the weft, now take your weft hand. Here's the weft. You see how much stronger that is? And now the bird of humanity can fly. And that's the second song I'm going to sing a little bit of. It goes like this. It's called Know Your Higher Self. Do it with me. Know your higher self. Take it off the shelf. Take it off the shelf. Give it room to play every single day. Forget about the fight. Reach for what is right. You can teach yourself to fly when you want to cry. I was standing by the school door, waiting for the bell, when Roger pushed me over. So hard I fell. Wanted just to punch him and make him feel my hurt. But something deep inside of me sounded the alert. Here it comes. Know your higher self. Take it off the shelf. Give it room to play every single day. Forget about the fight. Reach for what is right. You can teach yourself to fly when you want to cry. Thank you. So I sent that song to my friend. I posted it. I wrote that one with my friend Jay Banta, and we posted it on SoundCloud. This is how Force Field for Good began. And a teacher in Michigan wrote to me, Colleen Mesteg. She wrote to me, and she goes, that song changed my classroom. And I said, what do you mean it changed your classroom? What she said, what happened was, the kids didn't get along very well. They were all like pointing fingers at each other all the time. And we changed our class rules to one rule. And the rule we changed our class rules to is be your higher self. Everyone say that. So instead of, when things went wrong, instead of just pointing fingers at each other, the kids would ask themselves a question: was I being my higher self? Was I being my higher self when I pushed you? No. I wasn't being my higher self when I called you a name. And what happened in that class is that Colleen created a mediation area where kids could go and work out their problems. And so Colleen writes to me and goes, write more songs. So we created our own book of songs for the whole school year called Force Field for Good, and one for each calendar year. And now I'm up to about 3 years of songs for kids about kindness. But there's songs about putting kids in charge of kindness themselves. This is one. It goes like this. Your little brother teases you, your sister makes a face. The kids at school were mean again, you did not win the race. You're getting kind of angry and you're getting kind of sad. How do you choose the good when you want to be so? Press pause, do it. And remember you're all right. Press pause. Let your darkness fill with light. Press pause. And the world becomes more kind. Use your heart and use your mind, for there is no greater cause. Press pause, do it. Breathe in, breathe out. Help your mind sort it out. Don't scream, don't shout. Breathe in, breathe out. Press pause. Yeah, thank you. Why is knowing your higher self important? When we do this with children, we inoculate them against hate. Because if love is truth, kindness is freedom. Love is truth. Hate is a lie. Meanness is bondage at that point. And I'm wearing this T-shirt today. It says, all one people. And I've been wearing it for about 30 years. I change it occasionally. Got a few versions of it. And I was going up to give a speech once, and this woman goes, this is a picture of, of course, the Earth from the moon. Only 12 men have seen this sight. Stood on the moon and looked back at the Earth. And she said, that's really depressing. You sure you want to wear that shirt? And I looked down, and instead of all one, the L had been covered over by the lavalier mic, and it said, alone. And those are the two places you can live in life. Alone, everyone go like this, with fear, or all one. And so the last song I'm going to do to you is called Xenophobia. It's called Afraid of Love. And I wrote it with my friend Amy Vanderwater. And she was, there she is. She was looking in the dictionary to write a poem about the letter X, and she found xenophobia, which is fear of anybody foreign. And then next to it in the dictionary, she found another word, xenophilia, love of everybody foreign. What happens when love meets hate? What happens when love meets hate? When I talk to kids about this, who's stronger? And kids always say, in elementary school, love. Almost always. Until the last few years, it's been a telling sign. Not quite as much in elementary. But so how do we teach this? We wrote this song to teach about it. Just sing you a little bit of it. It goes like this. His name was Xenophobia. He lived north of Morovia. He was afraid of everyone in town. Her name was Xenophilia. She worked in memorabilia. She smiled and laughed at everyone around. Afraid of love, in love with fear. Sad hearts live alone in stony towers. But love shines on through all the years. One by one the hearts, they start to flower. And here's the part I sing with the kids. Darkness always shatters with the light. Day will always cover up the night. Hope will always drown out all the sad. Good will always swallow up the bad. They married in the marketplace and gave hope to the human race. Some people laughed and other people cried. It's hard to know just what to say when all the hate has gone away and this new love will never be denied. Afraid of love, in love with fear, sad hearts live alone in stony towers. But love shines on through all the years. One by one the hearts they start to flower. Thank you. So I'll end with a quote from Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Come, let's weave a force field for good together. Thank you very much.